they're like at a weird length, and so
Oh,
I'm afraid to cut them.
right.
So,
Yep.
because you know what happens when you cut your own
I
bangs.
mean, there's too many videos showing the realities of what happens when you do that.
I 1000% had those little spiky bangs, like because I cut them like all the
Oh,
way off.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
As everyone needs to at some point in their lives. Like that's one of those natural consequences that really just has to happen in order
Yeah.
to understand why you don't want to do it again.
My mother was so mad at me because I cut my sister's hair right before my grandmother was coming to visit.
Oh, yep.
And it was like diagonal in the back. It was
Yep.
awful. It was awful. So she had to go take my sister to get a haircut. And she was
I
always stressed out.
managed, well, I did a beautiful job of the month and a half I think before my sister's wedding. I got a terrible highlight job and I looked like a skunk with like these big pieces. And so my mother took me, like I had to come home from college and had to go to her hairdresser and get my hair fixed before my sister's wedding. Like that
Yeah.
was, choices were made.
People used to come into Walgreens when I was working there and buy hair dye. And like if they were of a certain age, like you can tell when it was like how people are acting because they come in and they'll be like,
Yep.
I'm dyeing it for my wedding. And I would do
Right.
my level best to talk them out of dyeing their hair the week before the wedding. But I can't tell you how many brides came in because the stress, I guess, and like
Uh-huh.
they can't
Yep.
like, and so they want to do
Yep.
something. Do not dye your
Something
hair
different.
right
No,
before your
no.
wedding. It is a bad
And
idea.
for the love, if you need to, like, go get someone else to do it. If you're really bent, like, don't do it
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Never. I have plenty of experience, and thankfully, there's not a lot of photo footage of me doing it myself and making poor choices. Oh, yep.
So, Catherine, we are marching through our series on the things that we are supposed to notice and appreciate about each other. So today we're on to maybe the hardest part for us to
Mm,
understand because of our cultural context, and that is
right.
Matthew 15. We're talking about appreciating what is pure.
Yep.
What are the words that come to mind when you hear that?
Well, I am a Southern. I have grown up in the South my whole life, in the Bible Belt my whole life. So I think of the whole purity culture was so huge when I was in high school and growing up. This whole concept of purity culture and purity rings. And I had a very catty sense about them because I saw them as a smokescreen from the beginning because it wasn't something that my household kind of endorsed or indoctrinated in me, but I saw it all around me. And then I saw people being pure in name only, let's say. And so the word purity has always had a little bit, it's a double-edged sword for me.
I think it's always fascinating to me that when we hear the word purity, the first place our mind goes is sex.
Yeah, yep, right.
Um, and like that in our culture, for some
Yep.
reason, we only think of purity in the context of virginal or like
Right,
um,
right,
it's always something like that physical desire
right.
for us, and it's fascinating to me because purity culture. I mean, I grew up with it some too, and I mean, there's a lot of things that go with purity, which we're going to talk about, but
Hmm.
the message they drilled home over and over and over again was, you know, no physical contact with the opposite sex. No,
Right,
you know, don't even have think you don't even think about it. No desires, like
right,
all of that
right.
stuff. And so
Yep.
like I think the first thing we have to acknowledge is we have to unleash purity from this bound
Right.
that we have developed. Um,
Absolutely.
and we have to recognize in American Christianity,
Hmm.
everything that we think has been flavored by the Puritans.
Right.
And so we are more obsessed with this idea of purity as behavior modification
Mm.
because that's how the Pilgrims viewed the whole situation,
Right,
right?
right,
I mean, there's a lot of good things the Pilgrims did, but one of the things the Pilgrims did that was bad,
right, right,
or maybe not
right.
helpful, was this obsession with behavioral purity.
Yeah, yep, yep. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And it's incredibly obvious how it has trickled down.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
I've been thinking too a lot about, and we'll um, maybe get into this more, but the idea of ideological purity has become a thing too
Mm,
lately, where you're either all the way in
yeah.
the group or you're all the way out of
Yes.
the group, and there's
Yep.
no uh, never the twain shall meet. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
like the idea of purity as like you have to 100% agree with every item on the Democratic Party playlist or you're out.
Right.
Or you have to agree with every single item in the Presbyterian playbook or you're out. You can't be a part of the church. And
Right. Right.
it,
Right.
it's obviously caused a lot of damage in the world, in our culture, I think, in Liz's
Right.
personal opinion, that
Yes.
this obsession with ideological purity has become an issue too.
No, I think we've, in an effort to, it's kind of like as we started to piece apart, I had somebody talk to me, not, I think it was a workshop or something I took up that was talking about if we really think about how binary we have become as a society, it's got to be this or that rather than everything existing on kind of a spectrum.
Hmm.
And I think we have. I think we've dug in even farther for whatever reason to that binary thinking. Like it's you're either in or you're out. And yeah, there's this sense of I don't like the word. It's almost I guess purity is the only word for it. I'm thinking like whitewashing. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
This
It's
in-groupness, it's our tribalness coming back
yes,
to bite us.
yes,
That so often
absolutely.
causes so much of the friction in our lives is this tribal nature that we have. And we're sort of
Yep.
always, I think, fighting against that, like
Yeah, yeah,
circle the wagons.
yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, we have decided that our survival depends upon it, but
Yeah. I mean, and
I don't
maybe there
think
was
so.
a point evolutionarily wise that our survival did depend on,
Right,
having, I mean, I guess if you're like getting attacked by a pride of lions, you do need to have like group solidarity to stand up
right,
against.
right, right.
All right, let's take a crack at the first six verses.
All right. Matthew 15. Then Pharisees and legal experts came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why are your disciples breaking the elders' rules handed down to us? They don't ritually purify their hands by washing before they eat." My children would be screwed in that sense. Anyway, Jesus replied, "Why do you break the command of God by keeping the rules handed down to you? For God said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and the person who speaks against father or mother will certainly be put to death. But you say, 'If you tell your father and mother everything I'm expected to contribute to you, and I'm giving to you, excuse me, and I'm giving to God as a gift, then you don't have to honor your father.' So you go away with God's law for the sake of the rules that have been handed down to you. Hypocrites."
Yeah,
I just had to say that was the next word on my
yeah,
page.
he goes off a little bit, and the next word, yeah. So what did we hear?
I mean, is this really one of those moments where you want to be? It's like one of those moments in the movie where, like, yeah, Jesus, name what it is. It's the you want rules for the sake of having rules. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, mm.
yeah.
You
The sake
don't.
rules for the
Yeah,
sake of having the rules.
right,
Yeah.
right. Not the rules as a means to an end for community or for whatever engagement or following God's law. You just want rules for the sake of having rules. And
This is one of the places where Christianity and the other Abrahamic religions, Judaism and Islam, have a real division.
mm,
Judaism and Islam are both very practice-oriented religion. So um, we are a thought belief system
right,
oriented religion, and that like it's the studying of the Bible and the reading of the word and the interpreting of the word that informs us, and then we go out and we make good choices because that is where we've been
right,
led to go by the studying and the imbibing of the spirit and all that.
right,
Judaism and Islam, on the other hand, I mean, they wouldn't totally reject that idea, but they would say the practices are the faith. So
right,
you
right,
go to Shabbat dinner, and that's what
right,
makes you Jewish. You wear the yarmulke because that's what makes you Jewish. Like you wear the hats and the no buttons and the beard and
right,
the
right,
twirly hair things,
right,
um, because those are the things that. help you to live into your faith by following these practices. Islam is very similar. That's why they pray five
Right,
times a day and they have
right,
the five pillars. That's why they have those because the practices are considered um, the boundary markers, the ways that you sort of stay on the in the faith and on track, and that
right,
they're what define you as being a Muslim or being Jewish is the practices that you follow.
right,
So
right.
do you see
Hmm.
the sort of the difference
Yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the plus side of that idea?
You
That
know,
idea?
I was literally just sitting here thinking like it's a little more equal for everybody, right? Like if you know what to do going in, you're not deciphering and discerning for yourself. So
Mm.
there's a little bit less opportunity for debate, um, which is problematic in and of itself too, but it simplifies things, right? But then even if I say that, it's like it simplifies, but yet it also complicates because what if what if your faith is deeply held and yet it's not. I know folks, who still have a strong sense of kind of that Judaic faith, but their practice isn't particularly strong. I don't know.
Right. I mean, there's always
I don't
like we
know.
talk about the ideals of these things. Like
Yep.
this is what, if you went to seminary and they said, tell me, like, describe the faith, like these are the ideals of faith. How we
Right.
actually practically live them out is a whole different,
Right. Right.
whole
Well,
different situation. Yeah.
and I think, it's funny that I said it was simplified because I think about also, everything lives within our own interpretation as well. My husband, when he was in his PhD program, was with a psychiatric doctoral fellow, and they worked together doing some clinical consultation work. And that gentleman was active, very, very devout Muslim. His family was very devout in Islam. And so John went to their house once. I can't even remember for what, but he walked into their home and he made a comment about something that he really liked, like a lamp that they had on the table or something. Wow, I really like that. That's beautiful. Immediately, both the man and his wife said, "Oh, please take it. Please take it."
Yeah.
Because one of the tenets of the faith is if someone compliments something, you were to offer it to them as a gift. And so it's like there was that was a rule, that was an understanding of their faith that they had that they very strongly believed in and they wanted to live it out. And John had to like adamantly insist that he was not going to take their lamp. And then he wanted to make sure that he wasn't accidentally insulting them by not taking their lamp.
Right. Right.
But so I guess in some ways, if you really do, if you live the rules in the way they are intended to be lived, then maybe that is a good thing. I don't know.
Right. I think the point of what they're trying to get at with this, and Christians have developed that same process over
Mm,
time, right?
right, right,
There are denominations where you will go and they have a list of rules you have to follow, and
right,
women
right.
have to wear the skirts and their hair long, and
Yeah,
so I'm not going to say that there aren't versions of
sure.
Christianity that, but as we've just read and as we'll continue to talk about, that wasn't
Right,
Jesus's necessary vision
right,
of what the faith should be like. Uh,
right.
it does cause you to have to be very aware of
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing and why you're doing it. So keeping
Right,
kosher no longer has the hygienic function that it maybe used to have, but it does
right,
force you every time to eat to consider, and what I'm doing, is
right,
this food I'm about to put in my mouth glorifying, within the structure of my faith. Like if you have to be generous with everything you have, and if somebody compliments you and you have to give it to them, like
right,
it's just an instinct then of generosity. Like so there it does
right,
frame, I think it can, in the best version of itself, frame your
right.
behavior in a good way.
And I
Yeah.
think maybe that's where I keep getting tripped up on but, and going back and forth. But I think in both circumstances, either if you are following a belief system that has these set practices and rituals that are guiding you, your guiding principles, or you are to be imbibing the Holy Spirit and living out your thought process to create these good principles within you, intent matters. Intent is everything, right? I mean, in either case, intent is either going to sustain you and continue to help you have a faith-filled experience, or it's going to be your downfall because you have the wrong intent in mind. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that's 100% what Jesus is saying here. Like
Hmm.
the the criticism Jesus has of this rules-based faith system is that the rules become the thing that you worship.
Mm.
Right? Like that's how I read that
Yeah.
criticism. Um, the question is, why are they breaking the rule, right? Jesus gets in trouble throughout the
Right.
Gospels for what the Pharisees interpret as breaking the rules. Right. When he goes
Right.
in the field with the disciples on Sabbath and they glean the field and they eat, and they say, "Why are you working on Sabbath? You're not allowed to do that."
Right.
Um, that's just the first example of many times that Jesus
Right.
breaks the rules
Right.
for the good of the people who are in the situation. And
Right.
so I think a little bit of like, why do you make like he turns it back on them? Like, nobody's
Yeah.
able to live
Yeah.
up to this impossible standard that you have for yourself. Plus,
Right.
the rules are not the point.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I was trying to think because yeah, yeah. It's like, how dare you let a woman touch you? What?
Yeah.
That one always gets me. But yeah, why are your disciples breaking the elders' rules handed down to us? It's kind of funny too. It's like, whose rules are they?
Right.
Like,
Right.
hmm.
Well, and so there is there are the Levitical codes, and
Right.
um, so there is a set of rules that the Bible puts in
Hmm.
place. And the Ten Commandments are supposed to be guideposts, right? They're
Right.
supposed
Right.
to guide our behavior. But they're not the I say this over and over again, but the Ten Commandments are not specific enough to tell you what that actually means when you live out, like
Mm.
from a rules-based perspective.
Right. Right.
If you were creating rules off of them, thou shalt not cover your neighbor's property is not enough information.
Right.
It's like half of the
Right.
math problem. What does that
Right.
actually mean? Um, and so over time, the rabbis solve this problem by creating more rules.
Mm.
So they they
Okay. Yeah.
they flesh out because the Levitical code is just meant for the priests. It's not meant for everybody. Uh,
Mm.
so the rules in Leviticus is the other thing I bang my spoon on the high chair about.
Yeah.
The rules in Leviticus were never meant for the entire community to follow.
Huh.
This was for the priest. Um, so over time, the rabbis start building out what the rule book should look like. And this is
Okay.
especially true after the second temple is built. So once they return
Mm.
from exile, they're a little concerned about God doing that again. And so they start building out the rule book. And so by the time Jesus comes around, there's a pretty hefty, detailed rule book. And
Interesting.
this is the difference between Pharisees and Sadducees. So
Okay.
Sadducees are law people. Like they're the ones who have the book memorized. And like we would think of them like the
Okay.
Orthodox or the ultra Orthodox
Right.
community. Um, the Pharisees are willing to give up some of those rules for the sake of living in the reality of where they are that in
Mm.
the day and time that they're in. And especially after the temple is destroyed, the Pharisees are the ones who survive because they're the ones who are able to pivot from the
Right.
temple having to be the place that you worship God to the synagogue system that we have now. So I think that's always important is that like
Yeah.
the Pharisees, while they're the ones questioning Jesus, are nowhere near the most strict about these rules.
Right. They're not the uber zealots about all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
that also gives Jesus the opportunity to say, well, you're criticizing me, but your disciples aren't following all the rules either because you realize
Right.
that that's not a functional way to live. So it's turning around. It's a little bit of like holding a mirror up to them and being like,
Hmm.
well, yeah, my disciples aren't following all the rules, but neither are yours because that's impossible.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting what you said, because it sounds, then we talk about when were these rules created and why, and it sounds like, a number of the Levitical rules were created under duress, were they not? Like it sounds like they were created as a safeguard for fear of
Mhm.
God's retribution.
Yeah.
Um, Not because this was something that God handed down as law. I don't know.
Yeah. Or, I mean, there were laws that were handed down and then
Right.
they were explicated over time. It's sort of like our legal system, right? There's the common law basis of the United
Yeah.
States legal system that, you know, all English speaking countries basically can trace our roots back to the common law system of England. And
Right.
whatever century that that was first developed, right? Um, which gives us the same root, but every country
Right.
has a different expression of what that root looks like. So, if you go to England, they have different laws about things than we do
Right.
in the details of things, but it's generally the same practices at the level of like, practice.
Right.
It's the same, but it's going to express itself in different ways.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that's the most helpful way I think to think about it is
Yeah. Yeah.
these are the different expressions of the rules that they all agree on are important.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
So what do you
Mhm.
think all this business about not honoring your father and your mother have to do with it?
Yeah, I don't know. I got myself confused when I was reading it. I was like, am I saying the right words?
Right.
Because I don't understand what I just read out
What
loud,
are
so I've
you
been going
talking
back and
about?
reading it, right?
Yeah.
If
Um,
you tell your
yeah.
father or mother, everything I am expected to contribute to you, I'm giving to God as a gift, then you have. So basically, it's like, is he pitting your father and your mother against God? Like if you're giving to God, then you're not honoring your father and your mother as you're supposed to be. Like, is he
Yeah.
setting up how that's an impossible scenario? I don't know.
Well, it's also helpful to think about what honor means. So we
Okay,
think of
yeah.
honor in the idea of, again, of purity, of like
Right.
standing up and doing what's right and living an honorable life. And um, honor in this context means show them the respect that they deserve because they're your
Mm,
honor, your father and your mother. And in this case, it probably means like you're supposed to take care of them when they're old.
right.
And instead of taking care of them, you're giving all your money to God
Mm,
instead. Saying, well, no, I can't take care of you, mom and dad. I gave all my
right.
money to God,
Right.
which doesn't on the front seem like an issue.
Right. Right. Hmm. So you do away with God's. So that's interesting. You do away with God's law for the sake of the rules that have been handed down to you. So there,
Yeah.
Jesus is also creating a separation between God's law and the rules that you were saying that you're following. That
This
those are
is,
two different
yeah,
things.
this is a
Yeah.
loophole they built into the system. Okay.
Right.
So like
Right.
honoring your
Right.
father and your mother is the ideal. And in honoring them, you take care of them and you help
Right.
them when they need help and you pay for their care as they get older and all the good things that children are supposed to do as a sign of respect for their parents.
Right.
But then the temple created a loophole which says, if you give it to us, it's fine.
Right. Right. That's not a problem.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting. Huh.
And you can
Huh.
argue that from scripture. I mean,
Right. Right.
like the story of Cain and Abel is all about giving your first fruits to God,
Yep.
well, and murder. But
Right.
right,
That too. That too.
primarily
Yep.
it's about giving your first fruits to God. And so the issue here is like they've used scripture to argue with scripture to create a loophole that benefits the temple.
Yeah.
But
And
it,
Jesus is like, wait, 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 wait,
yeah,
wait. Yeah.
exactly. You've broken your own tradition, like with this
Right.
loophole. Do you not see the issue here?
Right. You don't get to have it both ways. I'm sorry. Yeah. Huh.
Which we do all the time, right?
Of course. Of course.
I
Yeah.
mean, like my husband and I have a flat of Coke in our garage, and we are allowed to have one can of Coke a day per person. Like Jeremy can have
Yep.
one, I can have one.
Yep.
And every once in a while, the kids are like, "Can I have a Coke?" And we're like, "No, Coke is bad for you."
Right. Yep.
Right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Right. So it's not good for the kids to have it, but it's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So
Yep.
I will 100% own that hypocrisy.
Oh,
It's just a
I
different
have
way. I
lots of
can't drink
those.
coffee after noon or else I
Right.
can't go to sleep at night. So that's how I could get my caffeine into my system at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
But
Yep.
right, but I can justify
Yeah.
it, right? That's my circle of
Oh,
justification.
yeah.
Yeah.
I justify the fact that I can yell ugly words in the car when I'm mad about the way somebody is driving because I'm a grown up. And no, you're not allowed to use those words because that's inappropriate for you as a child. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, actually, it's inappropriate for all of us. But, and as my father would say, find something smarter to say. But no, I don't want to because I get to do what I want. There's my hypocrisy staunchly at play. But there we go.
Well, yeah, and I think we need to again like give ourselves a little bit of a break. Like
Right.
there's no, but which is all to say that the Bible doesn't say anything about using curse words is a bad thing.
Right. Right.
Taking the Lord's
Right.
name in vain is not about saying the D word when you drop something
Right.
important on the
Right.
floor, right?
Yep.
So, um, that goes
Yeah.
back to like creating all these rules so that we can feel bad about ourselves all the time.
Right. Right. Right.
All
Huh.
right. Um, so this is verse 7. You hypocrites. Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are
Mm,
far from me. They worship me in vain, and their teachings are but rules taught by men. Jesus called the crowd to him and said, listen and understand. What goes into a mouth does not make him unclean, but what comes out of his mouth, that is what makes him unclean.
hmm. Hmm. Well, there you go.
Yeah, which is where we get the don't curse like and use nice words thing.
Right. Right. Right.
That makes you unclean. It doesn't really, but
Right.
that's
Right.
where it comes from.
Interesting. My translation uses the term contaminates.
Mm,
It's not what goes in the mouth that contaminates a person in God's sight. It's what comes out of the mouth that contaminates a person.
yeah.
It's interesting.
My dad has a friend who told him he shouldn't drink tap water because it was poisoning him
Wow.
because there was chemicals in the tap water.
Hmm. There's chemicals in the bottled water too. Did anyone ever tell that? No? Okay.
Um, so it's funny to me. It does
Hmm.
seem like we're in a little bit of a moment right now where we're kind of obsessed with um, perceived purity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, there's not bottled water is just as the same thing happens in both things because the
Right.
chemicals are there for a reason, right? Like
Right.
that's what
Well, and
keeps us
it's
from getting cholera.
right. Right. So, but I also think like in this whole this speaks to in if I think about it, the purity culture, sexual or otherwise, like just purity culture in general is acting like consuming the right movies, behaving in the right ways. It has nothing to do with whether or not you actually internalize and believe in
Mhm.
all of that. It's just, do you behave it? Do you show it off? And I'm thinking, you know, I like this. It's what comes out of the mouth that contaminates the person. It's like what actually is inside of you that is going to come out of you that you have allowed into your heart and your soul and your being. That's where the purity is. It's not about whether or not you looked the right way. It's the whole like um what was it? Was it Varsity Blues, the movie where like everybody was sitting in church on Sunday mornings, but they had just partied really hard on Saturday night. And that whole cliche about, all of that. It's, I don't know. I kind of like this concept of the purity comes from again, where your intentions lie,
Mhm.
where your intentions actually live.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I do think the media we consume um, shapes our viewpoint, and I do
absolutely.
feel like
Absolutely. Yeah.
we need to be a little bit careful about what we're allowing into our hearts and minds. But that's a psychological thing. I don't think that has
Right.
anything to do with sin. Like, I don't think
Right.
um, watching an R-rated movie makes you sinful.
Right.
I do think watching too many violent movies desensitizes you to
Oh,
violence.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely. Right.
those are different, and I think we link that too often. Like just
Yeah,
because
yeah,
something's
yeah.
not healthy for us does not mean that it makes us sinful.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Do you remember, were you in high school or had you already graduated when Columbine happened?
I had already graduated.
Okay.
Just
And
wait. Had I? When was Columbine? Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing.
is it 98, 99, somewhere around there? So it would have been close
Yeah,
anyway.
I
Like
would
it
have
was,
graduated. It was
yeah,
very close to when I had already graduated, but I think I was in college. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember there being a lot of discourse about them playing violent video games. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yes. Oh yeah.
And that was
Yep.
the reason that had done what they wouldn't have done what they've done.
Right.
They wouldn't have done what they did.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have did what they done. They wouldn't have done what they did if they
One
hadn't
of
been
those. Yep.
watching all these playing all these violent video games, and that's what And I think
Yeah.
it's interesting. Um, Over time, they've done studies on that, and it turns out
Hmm.
there's no provable link between playing violent video games and actual acts of violence. In fact, they found that for some people, playing a violent video game actually helps them get rid of the rage and anger in
Mm,
a more productive way, and
right.
then they can be a normal. Then they can function more normally in society. It's like boxing. Like taking boxing doesn't make you violent
Right.
necessarily because sometimes it's a good way to a good healthy way to channel
Right.
appropriate feelings of anger and hurt. I think one of the things we've learned though in this process is that if you don't have appropriate places to channel the
Right.
very human emotions that we have,
Yeah.
that is where we start getting into trouble.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think that's a way of saying like, yeah, it's what we do with the feelings and emotions
Yeah.
and things
Yeah.
that are inside of us that actually shape our lives. It's not what has happened to us or what we've eaten or what we've taken in. It's
Right.
what we do with it once it has
Exactly.
happened to us.
Exactly. And I think that's where it's like, I think I've told you this story before, but like when I was in high school and I went to a Presbyterian church that didn't have a youth group. So I went to one of my friends' youth groups. And one night, the male youth director and his female wife separated the boys and girls into two different rooms and spent the entire evening like trying to biblically help us. And I can't even remember what scripture they used. Help us understand that like those sexual biological urges that all children have were wrong, were sinful. And I think to me, it's that goes back to this whole because I was looking, um, your worship of me is empty since you teach instructions that are human rules. And I'm thinking that's exactly what that was.
Mhm.
You were trying to it's almost like what are you seeking to accomplish here? You are seeking to control something. You are not seeking us to you're not seeking to help us understand how our bodies were created and how we are to honor God with these bodies. You were seeking to control the actions of young people so that they work in a way that you think is appropriate for that moment in time. I mean, to me, that's also like, and again, I'm probably gonna get in big trouble for this, but not that purity is strictly sexual, but like abstinence education. It's not about helping people understand the divinity of your body and then what the intent is to use it in a holy way.
Mhm.
It is about controlling an outcome or being scared of talking about how to navigate the feelings of your body and how your body functions. I don't know. I'm just like,
Well,
I don't know what built that. I don't know what created that, but I love this.
it,
Like, you're teaching human rules. You're not teaching God's rules. And they
yeah.
may sound very similar, but the intent behind them is not the same.
Well, it comes from a very good intention, which is that teenage pregnancy does
Right.
devastate the female's
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely.
The, it is a disproportionate impact.
Hmm.
Are there boys who show up and they're great dads to their,
Right.
well, yes, absolutely. So I would never ever say that it doesn't have a
Absolutely.
huge
Right.
impact on the male too. But let's just be honest that
Yes.
the
Horribly
burden
disproportionate.
of motherhood, the burden of having a children falls more on the mother in the early years.
Yep.
It does.
Absolutely.
Biologically factual.
Yep. Right.
And
Right.
um, in West Virginia, where I grew up, we had the highest percentage of teen pregnancy of any state in the nation at the time.
Mm,
Um, like the ratio or whatever measure they used. Like we had the most per capita.
yeah.
So we had, I want to say three separate week-long um, classes on
Hmm.
human development and this was unusual at the time. When I was growing up, that was not a thing. Like I don't know if your high school did that, but we had it in elementary school and then we had it t two more times in middle school.
Hmm.
Um, and the first one was just like anatomy and physiology, like how does the
Right.
female body work and how does the male body work? And
Right.
theoretically, this should happen in your house. Like this should be something that your parents are talking to you about. But
Right.
obviously,
Right.
that wasn't happening in West Virginia anyway.
Right. Right.
And so they took it upon themselves to have this very, very um, comprehensive education program. And
Yeah.
I remember in eighth grade, like seventh grade, them passing around birth control pills. Like
Mm,
they brought in a sample with the thing. And what they did
yeah.
was they removed the shame from the
The
context.
intention was correct.
Mhm.
Like the intention was an appropriate one, right? Yeah.
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 The point was, well, obviously just saying don't do it is not working. So like we
Right.
need to give them the tools to do it appropriately.
Right.
And what we've discovered is that it turns out when you equip them
Hmm.
with knowledge and you remove the shame from it and therefore the allure of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, they make much better choices. And so
Right.
the rate of teen pregnancy has just dropped, like exponentially dropped. Some of that is social media and
Mhm.
isolation and all that. But um,
Right. Right.
and so all of that is spinning in my head in this context because what I think that what Jesus is trying to say to remind us is the rules don't actually modify your behavior.
Right.
Like just telling
Right.
somebody there's a rule. There are people for whom a rule is sufficient.
Yep.
Right?
Right. Right.
For one of my
Yep.
children, you put a rule down,
I
that's
was
what's
just about to
happening.
say,
Yeah.
yep,
But
that's fine. Yeah.
that's not the case
But
for
the
most.
motivation, maybe it's the motivation behind it that,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. For the other kid,
Yep.
I can give them a rule, but then I have to explain why the rule is good. And they'll respect
Right.
that once they understand the purpose behind the rule. But
Right.
like just saying don't do that is not like it just
Yep.
immediately forces him to want to like do the exact opposite of it.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's what Jesus is saying here.
Yeah. Then the disciples came and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended by what you just said?" Jesus replied, "Every plant that my heavenly Father didn't plant will be pulled up. Leave the Pharisees alone. They are blind people who are who are guides to blind people. If a blind person leads another blind person, they will both fall into a ditch."
Uh-huh. Which is where we get the phrase the blind leading the
The
blind.
blind leading the blind. Right. Hmm. Peter then spoke up, "Explain this riddle to us."
Yeah, which we're going to get to. We will get to
Yeah.
Jesus's explanation in just a second. So, um, what do you think the explanation is going to be before you read on and find out what Jesus is going to explain to
Hmm.
them? What would you guess? What's he trying to say?
I think he's trying to say like everything it's gonna shake out in the end. Like it's going to like the truth and God's will ultimately reveal and win out over any of these human constructed rules that again that have the wrong motivation behind them.
Mhm.
Um Ultimately like those plants that God didn't plant, aka the weeds, they're gonna get pulled up eventually. Yeah, that
Yeah.
hmm.
Do you remember? Gosh, wasn't there a TV show? Was it a TV show or was it one of my friends? Every time somebody said something that she didn't like, she would go, offense.
Oh,
TV show.
it probably was because
Yeah, maybe that's where she got it from.
Thomas will say that occasionally. I don't know, like it's coming back and he's like, offensive. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
actually, it's not.
just because you don't like it doesn't make it offensive.
Right, 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 right. Yep.
That just made me laugh when I heard on you.
Yeah. But
Do you know that you
they
hurt
are
their
blind.
feelings?
Yeah.
Jesus is like, well, yeah,
Oh,
yes, that
yeah.
was the point.
Yeah, right, right. Huh. He's probably at this point, I mean, I can feel this sense of like, I am done trying to be gentle with this. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Went there, tried that. You didn't listen. So here we are.
here you are. Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah, that eventually, like the truth will out. Is this like
Right.
eventually,
Right.
they're gonna the good plants will live and the blind men will
Right.
fall into pits.
Right.
Seems
And
relatively violent.
it does. It does. And they will take those who are also blind with them. Like they're all going down.
Everybody's going down. You're all going down. Which is it somewhat fascinates me how much we care about what other people are doing.
Hmm.
Because I feel like this is kind of what Jesus is saying. It's like you're responsible for you.
Hmm.
They're responsible for them. And you can't try to fix them or change them or get them to see truth that they're not able to see.
Right.
They're like, just worry about maybe your own behavior here and don't
Right.
worry so much about what they're doing.
Right.
But that feels out of character to me for Jesus.
Mm, yeah. Right. Disciples like, don't you realize that you were just really offensive to them?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well,
Rude. Yeah.
right, right. Interesting.
Yeah, it's curious because it does feel like Jesus all the times talks about, I mean, isn't Jesus the one who said you are your brother's keeper? Like you're responsible
Hmm.
for, you know,
Right,
you're
right,
responsible for each other. So where does the line, where does the accountability partnership um end? Like to how big of this, how big is the circle of people to whom you are responsible to their
right.
behavior or for their behavior? I mean, like,
Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering because of this whole like it's yeah, I don't know. I'm grasping at something that's not like coming all the way forward yet in my brain. Something about this whole concept, when we were talking about blowing the top off of the concept of purity as we see it in like this American modern culture, post-Puritan culture, that maybe there is a line in the sand for Jesus that's like, you have been given all that I can give you with regard to understanding the difference between how God wants you to be and how you're being.
mm,
And the line is when I recognize that you are making rules just for the sake of making rules, I don't know what to do with you then. Like
yeah. I wonder how we, I wonder how we decide where I'm thinking about the fruits of the spirit
yeah,
and there has to be some measure for human beings, speaking for myself only. Um, for me, there has to be some measure of whether I'm li how do I know I'm living up to the expectations God has for me?
right.
I think we use
Yeah.
rules so often as that's the way that we know that we're doing, that we're
Hmm.
good, as we've checked off the list of things that Jesus says we're supposed to do. And
Right.
when I've done those things, now I know I'm a good, like now I know I'm a good person.
Right.
And now I know that you're a good person too, which seems to matter to us more. Like, is Catherine checking off this list?
Right.
And if she's
Right.
not, then she's a bad person and she's going to hell. And that we go back to the
Right.
condemnation thing from a couple weeks ago. So,
Right. Yeah.
so I guess it's requiring us to make a different yardstick for how we decide if we're a good Christian or not, like if we're living up
Right.
to God's expectations. But then you can't
Yeah.
apply that to other people. Am I talking in a circle? Is that
No, yeah, no, I'm getting there. I'm getting there because I'm untangling my own thoughts here
I don't know that
too.
it makes sense to me. That's why I'm asking.
No,
Like,
right, right,
talked
right,
around
right.
something,
Well, I
but
was trying to think of like gosh, things keep like coming and then they don't. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. We know that like when Isaiah says, this people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me. Their worship of me is empty since they teach instructions that are human rules. And it's like you can forgive and work with ignorance
Mhm.
a lot, right? You can work with not knowing. But willful disobedience or willful choices, I wonder if that's some of this too, is that Jesus is kind of differentiating here and saying, um, what we're talking about here is an active disregard of the way I have helped you understand how to live up to God's expectations. You are actively thwarting it
Mhm.
by creating more and more and more rules of the game for yourself. And what's worse is you're doing it saying that you're doing it for God.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I
It's
think
tough.
it also challenges us to make sure that we're following good leaders.
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
just, you'll continue to be blind if you're not,
Right. Right.
which goes back, I think, to the influences thing that we were talking about. Like, it is important to have good influences in your life because
Yep.
if you don't, then you're just going to continue to be blind and to your
Right.
own issues, to your own folly, to your own sinfulness, to your own bad choices. If you don't have people in your life and influences in your life that help you to shine that mirror on yourself or help to point you in a different direction. So
Right.
if you're choosing to follow leaders who are themselves blind, you're
Yeah.
going to end up in a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But then Jesus says to leave them. And so that's I think what's struggling, where I'm struggling with a little bit. Maybe I'm trying to generalize what is a very specific instruction to
Uh,
do with the Pharisees, right?
right. Right.
But I guess there is a
Right.
point where you have to just be like, well, I'm not going to change their minds. Like, there's no reason for me to bother trying to waste my energy on this situation. It's just, I guess I'm always curious. It's like, how do you decide where that line is of
Right.
when they are just gonna have to be a plant that gets uprooted?
And it's funny that, I mean, and it's in this particular, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but in this particular circumstance, and my translation again says, the disciples asked Jesus, don't you know you just offended them with what you said? And it's that, I guess maybe it's the turning away from, um, yeah, what's the measure? Well, me offending them
Hmm.
is not a litmus test for, I'm not going to retract my truth that I understand because it's offensive to you. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, that's fair. Um, we at the funeral a couple of weeks ago. It's always interesting at funerals because you don't they're wider. The population of people who come
Yeah,
to a funeral are not, they're not just like our church members. So they're people from
right,
the community, and some of them come with religious backgrounds and some of them don't come with religious backgrounds. And so it's always a
right.
little bit interesting at the reception for me. Um, because very often people will come up to me and be like, well, what, like, and they'll ask questions, which is great. I love that. Fantastic. Um,
Yeah,
but I had somebody come up to me um, last at the last funeral, and the wife said, this is my husband. He was a former minister, and so I say, well, what kind of minister? Just out of curiosity, like,
right, right.
could be anything. Um, and he said, cooperative Baptist,
Hmm.
and I said, oh, okay. And then he said, unprompted by me, the good kind,
Interesting. Uh-huh.
by which he meant that I didn't need to feel offended by his status because he supported female ministry.
Right. Right.
And I know that's what it was. 'Cause you can tell like the way people uh,
Yep, 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 yep.
like talk to you and approach you and all that stuff. And it was just an interesting way to say that. And
Yeah.
he assumed offense on my behalf,
Uh-huh.
which I mean, you've been around me enough. I am one of those people who's like, I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to work with me.
Right.
We don't have to
Right.
um we don't have to agree on everything. I'm not going
Right.
to get offended if you've come to this place of belief and deeply, truly held belief from a process that was holy and
Mm-hmm.
prayerful and sincere, like that, why should that bother me? I know where my calling comes from. I'm
Right.
secure in my ministry. I don't need your affirmation that I'm allowed to be doing what I'm doing. Like God has given that to me. So um,
Right.
So it bothers me a little bit when people assume offense on my behalf. Because,
Right. Right.
I've worked with imams, I've worked with Catholic priests, I've worked with Orthodox
Yeah.
priests, like when it comes down to it, generally people to people, they're much more like people are much
Right.
more open to things. But if it is a genuinely held belief that comes from a place of prayer and consideration, then like, okay,
Right.
we just have different opinion. We just have
Right.
different ideas about what God is asking us to do in that situation.
And maybe that, I mean, that speaks somewhat to this whole concept of, there's a difference between having a sincere and genuine held belief and this whole concept of honoring with the lips, but the heart is somewhere else. Like if
Yeah.
you're just and maybe that's what Jesus is super frustrated about. Like if you're just a parrot of the things that you have deemed as the stuff that you should say or the rules that there should be because of this, that, or the other. If it is not coming from a genuine, sincere, holy place, then yeah, what I can't really do anything with that. Like I
Yeah. And I never figured out why that bothers me, but I think it's
hmm
because I would rather you, I mean, seekers and doubters, welcome. Like you don't
Right,
have to come in,
right,
you don't have to come in the doors and believe anything that at
right,
all. You can have zero
right.
belief and come in the door. But I feel like it's almost worse to come in and actively work against it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like if you're only coming because your mom told you to, like that,
Right.
maybe
Again,
grace can work in that situation. I have tons of room
sure.
for that, but that's not the
But
right reason.
it's not, again, it goes back to the motivation. What's your motivation behind these rules? What is your intent behind these rules? And
Hmm.
if there is not a shred of sincerity or faith or depth behind your motivation, then what do you have to latch onto to shift into a better space?
Yeah. And it's just, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just something I've always struggled with. Like and I've seen grace work in those situations. So I would never,
right,
again, like it's not my job to decide if you're at
right.
the right place or not. But I do think we need to be aware at least of why we're doing things.
Yeah,
What's the
yeah,
reason that I do this? If I
yeah,
eat a brownie every night after dinner, the behavior in itself is not bad. Like brownies are
right.
delicious, and if you want a little brownie after dinner, like
That's
Godspeed.
right.
Um,
Yep.
life is hard. Eat a
Yeah, right.
brownie.
Eat a
Um,
brownie.
but I do think we should be aware of like, am I eating this brownie because brownies are delicious, or I'm eating this brownie because it mutes my feelings
Right.
and I'm stressed, and this helps me to get some endorphins, and so I don't feel so
hmm
stressed. Which, by the way, still eat the brownie. I don't care. But
Right,
like,
right,
but at
right.
least we should be
But
aware
just
of,
pay attention to what your motivation is.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we'll never get out of the cycle of, um, we'll never get to the point of enjoying the brownie if it's always from a place of guilt and shame
Yep.
and, um, and stress relief and all of those things, which are there are healthier ways to deal with that.
And maybe that's where I go back to the purity culture that I saw and grew up in. It's the don't do it because everybody else is doing it.
Mm.
Like that, and maybe that's what Jesus is talking about right here. Like I can't, you're you're doing it simply because maybe other people are doing it. I I don't know. Like,
Somebody told you to. Somebody
yeah,
told you this was the,
yeah. And or it looks good to the group of people that you are seeking to
yeah,
impress.
yeah,
Or um yeah, this is the trend of the moment. And so you're gonna hop on that train because FOMO is real.
yeah.
Like it all comes back to me to motivation.
Yeah. All
What's your
right.
motivation?
Let's hear what Jesus
Yeah.
has to. Let's see how
All
he's
right.
terrible. Okay. Are you stupid? Jesus said to them, don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? But the things that come out of the mouth come from the heart, and
Mm,
these make a man unclean. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, and slander. These are what make a man unclean, but eating with unwashed hand does not make him unclean.
hmm. Hmm. So we're defining cleanliness here too, a little bit,
Yeah, a
right?
little bit, isn't it? Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what
First of all,
yeah,
I
define
love the
clean.
metaphor of poop. That is the
Yep.
beginning of, yeah,
Yep.
everything you put in your mouth comes out your body. So don't like,
Right. Right, right,
it
right.
doesn't stay there. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But what comes out of your heart,
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
those
like
things. Yeah.
Help me understand. Yeah, it's almost like I can hear Jesus saying, help me understand why the rule of washing your hands before you eat is so important to you.
Mm.
Help me understand why this rule is the one, the ditch you wanted to fall in or die on or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Meanwhile, we have things like evil thoughts that are leading to theft, murder, denying a fellow brother of in creation food or clothing or life or all of the things that I have been teaching you all along the way. Why is it so hard to understand the difference between these rules?
And this
I
comes
guess.
up over and over again in the New Testament, this exact conversation, because Peter has the same issue in Acts. Remember the dream that Peter has? Maybe you don't remember the dream because this is kind of a weird passage. We don't read it very often, but Peter has a dream that descending from heaven is a sheet, and on this sheet are clean animals and unclean animals. Now, this just means the
Hmm.
animals you can use for sacrifice and for eating. Unclean
Right.
animals aren't bad; they can still use them.
Right.
That's why there's pigs in these stories when they're not supposed to be eating pigs, right? But this descends on the sheet, and Peter has an existential crisis because, like, well, now what am I supposed to do? I can't, like, these unclean animals and these clean animals have been mixing together, and um,
Right.
tell me what I'm supposed to do. And in the dream, God says, there is no clean or unclean.
Hmm.
Everything in creation is good. And it's in Acts, it's
Huh.
taken as a metaphor for he's supposed to go and talk to the Gentiles too. Um,
Yeah.
and that's when he goes and talks to Cornelius. And so
Hmm.
but the dream very specifically talks about the difference between clean and unclean and that God has made everything the
Yeah.
same. And so, like, stop worrying about it so
Huh.
much. Then it comes up again in Paul in Corinthians. They have a debate about whether um, converts to the faith are required to follow the kosher laws. And quotes Jesus here. Now, Paul's letters are earlier than the Gospels, so we have to remember that. Um,
Right.
there would have been versions of the Gospels traveling, but Paul's letters are older. Um,
Okay. Okay.
They were written before the Gospels were in their final form. Um, but Paul says in 1 Corinthians 8 that it's not the food that comes into your body that defiles you, it's what comes out of your body that defiles you. And they should maybe stop worrying about it so much. I think that's
Hmm.
his advice to the Corinthians. So
Right. Sounds like a direct reflection of what we just read here. Huh.
this
Yeah.
continues to be a problem. And then what happens in Revelation is that everything becomes holy and everything is clean again, right? That's the
Right.
final
Right.
vision for creation. So
Right.
this is an issue that comes up. Jesus does not solve it in this passage.
Right. But I guess it's that whole idea of yeah, I mean it makes a lot of sense of you have chosen the wrong problem to solve. When
Yeah.
we get down to the brass tacks of it, you have chosen the wrong problem to be bothered by and to solve. The cleanliness of our hands that puts food into our body does not usurp the cleanliness of our hearts, which motivates us to do literally everything else in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, the ritual washing of your hands before you eat or the rich or do anything, while hygienic and a good idea,
Correct.
uh,
Right. Right.
doesn't change your behavior in any
Right.
way at all. What
Right.
happens with your behavior is a result of your heart, and washing your hands does not change your heart.
Right. And so then we circle back to what you were saying at the very beginning of all of a sudden you're worshiping or you're putting on the pedestal the rule, not the understanding or exaltation of God that you are supposed to be doing with your body and your rules. Um, it's not coming from a place of gratitude. It's coming from a place of um, obligation,
Mhm.
maybe, or I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, if the rules worked in and of themselves, we would not need
Right.
a police force.
Right. Right.
Everybody would agree not to steal things, and then we wouldn't have to.
Right.
I mean, because it's the rule exists, right? Like, it's pretty
Right.
clearly illegal to break
Right.
into somebody's house and steal things. And
Yep.
yet, nope, that doesn't alter behavior.
Right.
Enough
Right.
enough people that we don't need police officers roaming around arresting
Yeah.
people for their bad behavior. So
Hmm.
it's just this is one of those things that's so blatantly obvious
Yeah.
in the practice of life, and yet we continue to think if we just pass another law,
Right.
if we
Right.
just make more rules.
Right. The most oppressive rules often create the biggest problems with breaking them because what you're not doing is teaching someone how to live from the inside out. You're
Yeah.
just teaching somebody how to live on the outside without getting caught.
Yeah. To follow the rules and to be observant and
Right.
um I was gonna say complicit, but that's not what I mean. Just like
Yeah.
disciplined.
Yeah.
There's good
Right.
arguments for helping people become disciplined, but that does not
Right.
in and of itself stop them from
That's it.
because like my niece is in boot camp right now and she's having
Yeah.
a ball, loves it, great time. But if the rules and obedience and following directions change people's behaviors, then you
Right.
wouldn't have the amount of sexual assault that happens in the military,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
it just logically doesn't work if you think about it for very long.
Right. Right.
But we keep reaching for it because
Exactly. Exactly.
maybe it's
And
'cause we don't know what else to do.
probably, I mean, and I think that's exactly what Jesus is talking about is like you keep attacking the problem from the wrong angle or whatever the problem is. Um, your rules aren't what's fixing it.
Yeah.
And yet you just keep trying to add on and add on and add on. And what have you done internally lately? Like where's the internal work?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
But it's much hard, which is much harder because
Yeah.
you have to see the individual.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put a blanket rule down
Right.
because how to get someone to live into the um, desired behavior of gentleness
Right.
is not going to be the same for everybody. What gentleness
Absolutely.
looks like for me and for you is going to be different than what it looks like for other people. And so you can't do that at its scale.
Right. 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 It's harder. It's hard. It's easier to, well, and I think we've talked about this so many times before. It's easier to have a rule around who's in and who's out. It creates an ability for me to not have to think it through. Somebody else is just going to tell me.
Hmm.
So then I don't have to get confused about who's good and who's bad, who's in and who's out, where I fit in the pecking order of life when I have to do that from an internal space, like Jesus is asking, when I have to do that heart work, that's hard
Yeah.
because then I have to focus on myself.
Yeah. It's relatively easy for me not to steal. It is much
Right.
harder for me to always react with kindness.
Oh, right. Right.
Right?
Yep.
And and yet the kindness is what God is asking us to produce.
Yep. Yeah. And it's real hard for me to just appreciate and love what I have out of gratitude than it is to not steal something because that rule would get me in trouble.
Yeah.
I know the consequence of that action. Um, but the consequence of me just appreciating and being happy with where I am and what I have, that
That
I
feels
don't
so
know how to do that.
fuzzy. Yeah.
Yeah, and hard
Yeah.
because there's always something better, and I'm probably going to see it on TV.
Well, it's more immediate too. Like
Yeah.
the reward
Yeah.
of having the thing
Yep.
in your hand feels better than the reward of living your life with gratitude
Yep. Absolutely.
in the immediate time. In long term,
Absolutely.
like it really does help your life, like
Right.
an
To
attitude and all those
take a
things.
step.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
much harder.
Hmm.
All right, what's your takeaway for today?
Oh, that God has got to be like just no. I think that we are always as human beings going to end up drawn to the easiest thing.
Mm,
And yet at every turn, every single time we open this book called the Bible, there is a counter to the easier option. And so, if you're really paying attention, you should spend your entire life in a little bit of a struggle and a little bit of attention being held between what's easy and what's God's will.
Which brings us to full circle back to the intentionality about everything that we do.
Yes.
Like that just
Yes.
sparked to me like you have to live your life with intention and purpose. And external rules don't help us, don't get us there. They're not
Right.
enough.
Right.
But all of us, people of faith, are trying to live our life with intention and purpose and with our mind thoughtfully engaged around what God would have us to do. It's just different ways of getting to
Right.
the same
Right.
idea. And what we're saying, what Christians claim is like you have to be intrinsically, it has to come from within you. It has to be an intrinsic motivation in order for it to happen. Whereas
Right.
others might be saying, well, no, this extrinsic set of lines and procedures is what gets
Right.
helps me to get there. And I don't know that,
Right.
yeah, I can see the value of both.
Right. Right. When the intent is there, when the same intent is underlying both,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's the
All right.
many paths to get there, but the one destination we're trying to get to.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
We are, so the next time that you see us, we'll be in Ephesians.
Mm.
We're going to be talking about what is commendable,
Ah,
which is an SAT word.
yeah. I'm gonna have to go like do a little Webster search to see what multiple definitions there are of commendable.
Yeah. And and how that looks for how do we learn to appreciate when other people are commendable?
Mm.
Yeah. So next Sunday, the 28th, um, we are invited to stay after worship in the sanctuary for a little bit of a book club discussion to talk about the first four chapters of the book we've been reading together. And then we'll do the second half of the book at the end of July. Just to hear what
Yay.
it's always good to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Good things to come.
Yay. All right. Bye,
All right.
Catherine.
Bye.